Hey guys, this is from Team Two Crit. Gonna bring you a deck profile of the new Grand Gallop booster deck. Now that it has all the support from it, the extra Break Stride Gallop. It's pretty powerful. It's got some really nice combos once you get to your stride bonuses. And the longer the game goes on, the more powerful X-Tiger can be. And if they don't have a perfect guard, that just means game. Once GB8 becomes a thing, D-Please probably be one of the best decks ever because that GB8 is ridiculous. But we'll talk about GB8 in another video. Right now, the starter is Cosmic Hero Grand Hop. Skill is GB1, rest him, choose a Vanguard. It gets plus 4,000, and then if it's at double check the powers. Yeah, if it's at 25, it gets 4K, and then if it's at 35, you can throw this into the soul to countercharge and draw. The ability procs itself, so let's say your Vanguard is at 31, you rest it, give it power, then it's 35, you can still proc the second part of the ability. We're actually playing 2 of this. I sacrificed a grade 1 in the grade 1 lineup to play 2 of it because the countercharge is super duper nice. I don't play 4 on flip perfect guards, so... Plus it's a nice draw. It turns into a new card. You can throw in the soul, draw a new combo piece. Grade 3s, we play 4 Bravest Rush Grand Gallop. New Grand Gallop from the new set. Amazing. Pretty much all around. Starting with its Break Stride ability, Counterblast 1, whenever you stride, the Vanguard gets 4,000 power. Then if it's a burst unit, it gets another 4,000 power. Your burst units are pretty much restricted to Laurel and Grand Gallop X, but that's pretty irrelevant because those are the best cards in the deck anyway. Other ability is if you have 2 or less cards in your hand at the beginning of your ride phase, you don't have to pay cost for stride. That's not GB restricted, so if you ride into it and can't stride, or let's say you ride into it first, your opponent's not at grade 3 yet, when your turn comes around, if you've guarded like with everything in your hand and you only have 2 cards left, you can stride for free. GB3, rear guard only. Whenever your Vanguard attacks a unit, if your Vanguard is 30k or greater, he himself gets 4k on the rear guard. Then if your Vanguard is 60k, it gains an extra crit. I've taken a few games with that just for the fact that he gets an extra crit plus any trigger powers I give to him. It really makes him a scary rear guard, but not often. You're just going to want to ride and stride. 4 of the original Grand Gallop. GB2, when it attacks, if its power is 22 or greater, it gets an extra drive check. Break Stride ability is a little nicer. It gets plus 4 by default, and then CB1, if the attack hits a Vanguard, you get to draw a card. It's nice for him sometimes because you don't have to Counterblast to get your 4K. His is just Counterblast base 4K if you stride into something like X-Tiger or X-Phoenix or anything like that. Still nice to have 4 Gallops, though, because the Stride Enabler fetches any grade 3 you want now. Grade 2s, 4 Cosmic Hero Grand Volver. Just because it has resist, it's one of the staples in the deck. Once per turn, Counterblast 1. If your Vanguard is 15 or greater, you can choose any rear guard to give 4K. Then if your Vanguard's power is 30 or greater, he gains red text, which is if this unit attack hits a Vanguard, countercharge 2. It adds a lot of pressure just because countercharge is what the deck super duper needs. Nobody's going to want to let you countercharge 2, and if you do countercharge 2, you can go wombo combo even more with him again. It's pressure, and countercharging is super duper important, so 4-0, why not? And resist makes it super good against Link Joker, Kagero, and Arakami. You can't denial Griffin it. It's always nice. 4 Cosmic Hero Grand Rifter. Benazel clone, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 when placed. If you have a Gallop Vanguard, this unit, and can it be any unit or just rear guard? This unit gets 4K and a Vanguard gets 4K, and your Vanguard gets the red text once per turn when it attacks. If its power is 40k or greater, it draws. That's when it attacks, so it doesn't. You can screw up your drive checks. Don't do that earlier. It's nice for combo. If your Vanguard's gonna get 40, you might as well throw him down just because it's extra power and it's free cards. It replaces himself with the draw. And 3 copies of Grand Sub. It's not the best. I mean, the Amber Clone's pretty nice, but this is the card I like personally. If its power, GB1, if its power becomes 13 or greater via not boosting, you do a trigger, you do another card's ability. He himself gets to give a Vanguard 4K and the ability of, if the attack hits, your opponent chooses a rear guard. Your opponent chooses a rear guard to retire. It's nice pressure, plus if you drive check a trigger, you can give the power here, and then the Vanguard will get the text anyway. If they no guarded, or let's say they guarded 2 to pass, you give all effects Vanguard, you drive check another trigger. If the 4K lets it hit, you can give it here, and that way you've given 2 units power instead of 1. Grade 1's 4 copies of Grand Rope. It's the Stride Enabler and searches Gallop. Pretty obvious. 2 copies of Enigma Calm and 2 Grand Guard. I've been thinking of bumping Calm up to 4, but the counter charges actually come in handy sometimes. Obviously, Grand Guard, when you guard with it, you protect your Vanguard only, and if you have a copy, you countercharge. Enigma Calm is the Infa Perfect Guard. It lets you protect anything, and GB2, it activates in the drop zone. It's a burst ability. When your Vanguard attacks, at the end of the battle, if it's a burst Vanguard with 40k or greater, you can CB1 Soul Blast 1, add this to your hand. If it's 45 or greater, you countercharge. So basically, if your Vanguard gets to 40k, you Soul Blast 1 to add a Perfect Guard back. And I've had times where I only have one Counterblast. I just, after the end of the battle, activate this one, CB1 Soul Blast 1, then Countercharge. So this is in my hand, and then I have the Countercharge damage to trigger this one, and I still have the Countercharge damage for later. 3 copies of Grand Chopper. It was 4, but I took one out for the starter. Grand Chopper's super nice. It makes columns. If his power becomes 11 via an effect, not boosting or anything, give 2 units plus 4k. So if he's in the back row, you can target him with a trigger, give the front row dude plus 4, and your Vanguard plus 4, or the other column 4/4. It's just to make numbers if you need them. The deck is super combo heavy. 2 Grand Vickle. I would be playing Grand Lady, but she's a $10 promo card that no one has, so Grand Vickle's alright. When placed, he becomes an 11k, and Burst, if your Vanguard is 30, it gets another plus 4 if it's a Gallop Vanguard. The base requirement is your Vanguard's at 15, so if you stride, you can just do it like that. Triggers, 4 Grand Beat because it's a trigger with an effect. 4 Justice Gold because Justice! 2 Gorgon because I couldn't find more Justice Golds. 4 Stain Trigger, Reika, throw her on top of the deck shuffle, give your Vanguard 4k. If it attacks with 37 or more, you draw a card, so it replaces itself and bumps the Vanguard for no reason. And 4 heals. I don't know what I did with the other heal trigger. It's somewhere. Oh well. There's supposed to be 4 heals. It's somewhere. I might have accidentally stacked it with something else. I won't worry about it. 4 heal triggers. That's it for the main deck. G-Zone is the super duper fun part. 1 Commander Laurel D. Basically replaces Laurel in the main deck because Laurel's a 4k. I don't want to ride it. I mean, I would love to put Laurel's in here, but he's also expensive, and I like cheap cards. It's only the plus 4k, so when you stride, you're at a 15k base. If you use the break stride, you're at 23, which is already half his condition. All you need is another plus 4. Skill, rest 4 units. If his power is 20 or greater, you gain the red text. When the attack misses, when the attack hits, you stand him. And if you're at 25 or greater, he gains another red text, where if he misses, you stand 4 rear guards. It's really great to go into first turn if they don't have a perfect guard, because you swing, they no guard. If you get a crit, it puts him to like maybe 4 or 5. He stands himself, swings again, and they're going to obviously try to guard it with everything they have. And if they do guard it, you stand 4 rear guards. You can trigger both abilities once per turn, so super scary. Main stride of the deck, probably X Gallop. CB1 burst ability. Choose a face-down card in your G-Zone, turn it face-up, so it doesn't have to be himself, but you probably flip himself due to his certain ability. If the unit's power is 35 or greater, you have to pay your cost. So you have to be at 35 to even pay your cost. If you do, he gets Quad Drive. And then if his power is 40 or greater, for each face-up copy, your front row rear guards get plus 4,000. It's super nice to buff the rear guards, but the Quad Drive is kind of what keeps you alive, because D-Police right now don't have super hand advantage engine, aside from, let's say, the Stand Trigger, who replaces itself, and the Grade 2 that replaces itself, just so you can get some pluses or not nags, really. Otherwise, it's a Burst Vanguard, so it triggers. The only 2 Burst Vanguards are Gallop and Laurel. Probably the most important stride, I would think. If for this deck anyway, not for like D-Police or D-Robos who can run shield breaks. 1 SP X-Tiger and 1 regular X-Tiger. Late in the game, this is your Blizza that gains an inherent crit. It flips a unit when it attacks and gets 4k for each. This is pretty much your main method of triggering Gallop on the rear guard. 1 X-Falcon, because I've won like 2 games off of this card, because damage something face down. It's pretty bad skill, but it works. Counterblast 2, choose a face down card, choose a card in your hand, discard it. If his attack is 45k when he hits, you choose opponent's rear guard, put in damage on face down. 2 X-Phoenix, if you stride into the original Gallop, it makes basically your Vanguard, no matter what, will Counterblast 1 to draw a card, which isn't terrible. This will probably come out for the GB8, whenever that comes out. 1 Seabreeze, because people who great stuck themselves are douchebags. 2 Enigman Patriot, shut your mouth. 2 Enigman Patriot, generic G-Guard. If your opponent's power is 20k or greater, it becomes 31. It's really good. No condition, no cost. It's awesome. Other best, no condition, no cost. Just If your opponent's Vanguard is 30, this becomes 30. This becomes a 10k boost, 10k extra shield. Then you have the choice to discard a card and give your Vanguard a permanent +4, which is super cool because if your opponent's rear guards both are like 5k blocks, discard a card and you've effectively guarded both. If they get a trigger, the math still works out in your favor. And one of the new Perfect or G Guardian, when placed, it gets plus 10,000 if you Soul Blast any card with 5,000 power or greater, which means if I ride Laurel, if I was playing it, just couldn't Soul Blast him. Soul Blasting Perfect Guard is cool, though. Jesus. If you have taken a damage also, you get another +5 shield, so this is the +15 shield for D-Police. It's not terrible. It saved me some games, definitely, where I'm at 4, I take a rear guard hit, and then this is able to guard the Vanguard. Sometimes I'll realize I'm at 5 damage and he doesn't do anything, and it kind of sucks, but it's a nice generic. It's basically I'm running 3 of this if I'm at 10 damage, or 5 damage. Not 10 damage, 10 power, you know what I mean. Your main hope is to have him on board, him in the back row somewhere, probably him and him. If you don't have those as your grade 2s up front, you're probably just going to want to call him. Once you stride into, let's just say, X-Gallop, and you have no copies face up, you CB1, he gets the +8. You can trigger this, CB1, +4 here, trigger this, +4 here, +4 here, trigger this, +4 here. And at that point, you're at your trigger count because that's 8, 4, 12. You're at 38, which is already your quad drive requirement. When you have a 7k booster, because it's when he attacks, when you have a 7k booster that hits your 45, these get another 4k. It's a pretty consistent field setup. The deck itself isn't super consistent, but his ability to stride for free really makes your late game powerful. Because striding for free is like the new, every deck's going to get one eventually, and it's so good. Alright guys, that was my Cosmic Hero deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to rate, favorite, comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.